Footballers in the modern time rarely give open and honest interviews. They're so well media trained that they normally keep it quite close to their chest. But in an interview with YouTube channel Utd'S, Fred has spoken really openly and really honestly about the problems at Man United at the moment. And in this video, I want to run through what he had to say, give my own opinion on them, and discuss them with you in detail in the comments. Before I do begin, make sure you subscribe to United People's TV. But let's take a look at what Fred has had to say about United's problems. Before I do get into it, I want to say thank you to Yvonne, who is the editor of the People's Person, our written website, Daily Manchester United News, everything you need on there. Make sure you check it out, link in the description. But Yvonne has translated these quotes from ESPN Brazil. Now, the thing you have to remember about translations is certain interpreters can interpret phrases and words differently to another one. Neither of them are wrong, it's just how you interpret it. So make sure you remember that when looking at any sort of interview that's translated into English. That's all I would say. But these are the quotes that we've got from ESPN Brazil about what Fred had to say. And in that interview with Utd'S, Fred was asked about Manchester United's problems, and this is what he had to say. He said a lot of things, We need to straighten things up on the pitch. We're lacking a little creativity in the team. In general, we need to improve everything. We do need to improve everything. And Fred here speaking more like a fan than a footballer at United, because everything is wrong at United. There is not one part of this football club, of this team on the pitch, team off the pitch, training, structure of the club, board, owner, manager. There's problems everywhere at United. So just to hear Fred say that so openly and honestly is brilliant. And I wish footballers would do it more often. But these quotes in themselves, yeah, there are problems everywhere, but what are they? Fred went into it in a little bit more detail, and this insight is rare into the dressing room, and I think it's refreshing to get it. They're not inflammatory, they're not sort of airing your dirty laundry, it's not Fred trying to dig people out and point fingers. It's Fred simply being open and honest about the problems that he's experiencing being part of this United squad. And when he went into a bit more detail, this is what he had to say. He said in relation to the group, it's not such a closed group. Each group has a discussion here and another there. And I think that little point there is quite interesting, because in every football club you get cliques. Sets of players, experienced older players, new signings that come in, players that speak the same language, younger players. Every football club will have cliques in the dressing room. And that's something that Solskjaer will be trying to get through. So instead of having 6 or 7 or 8 separate individual groups, there's one big group together. And that's not going to be an easy thing to do. But Fred there saying that they're not closed groups. It's not as if 3 or 4 players won't talk to the rest of the group. Slowly but surely that's happening behind the scenes at United. And that's something that Fred can clearly see as well. But as well as talking about maybe the positives that we're seeing, Fred goes on to discuss the not so positive aspects of the dressing room. And he talks about the vanity that exists in United's team. He said, there is always a little vanity in a group. Our team has plenty, so we have to stop it. Stop talking, because we talk a lot in the locker room and need to start running on the pitch. For me, this is the crux of United's problems. The vanity, the individualism that does exist in that dressing room has stopped it becoming a United dressing room. And for me, I think that's the reason that Solskjaer hasn't been sacked. Results-wise, he should have been sacked a long time ago, but he's tasked with something a bit bigger, the cultural reset at United. I agree with every player that's gone out. I agree with every player that's come in. Solskjaer is trying to change and mould and shape this dressing room. And I think he's doing it piece by piece by piece. But Fred there speaking about the vanity that exists means the players that have left, there's still... you're allowed individualism, you're allowed vanity, but you have to show it on the pitch. You have to prove yourself on the pitch before you can walk around like Conor McGregor. Memphis Depay did it the wrong way round. That's why he didn't suit United at that time. He thought he made it when he joined United, when in reality, that's when the hard work really starts. And Fred, for me, has been showing it in the last 3 months. And that's why I feel he's allowed to say these things. Because Fred, in the last 3 months, with Pogba out, with McTominay out, with us not signing a central midfielder in the summer, he's stood up. He's improved so much this season, and he's United's best midfielder over the course of the whole season. So he's allowed to point these things out, because on the pitch, he's doing his talking. What Fred is saying here is that there are others that talk too much off the pitch, but aren't pulling their weight on the pitch enough. And he goes on in a bit more detail to discuss that as well. He said business is about running on the pitch. When everyone has the same goal in mind, we can start to move forward. If not, when one just wants to play well and another just wants to score a solo goal, when you have this, it's difficult to move ahead. There's no way. And again here, for every United fan, we've all known about this. But we haven't heard the players, any player, come out and speak about it until now, until Fred. I think Fred doing this and saying this in public, as I said, it's not him trying to dig players out. It's him trying to say, look, we need to do more on the pitch together. Clearly, there are players that he feels aren't pulling their weight. And it should have two positive influences, I think. One, the players that it relates to, that Fred is talking about, maybe they go, oh, you know what? Yeah, you're right. I do need to improve. But secondly, I think Solskjaer will like seeing these comments. As I said earlier, it's not Fred airing the dirty laundry of United, pointing fingers at players, isolating individuals and creating divisions. It's a wider view of United's problems, and maybe he can include himself in that. In the first season, I don't think Fred really committed himself enough, but he's improved. And he has the right to say this now about what he's seeing in this dressing room. So hopefully it will force others to improve around him. But just to hear Fred speaking so openly and so honestly about United's problems, Vanity is clearly a big issue. Players at United are on inflated wages, inflated egos, and it's not reflected in the quality and the consistency of the football on the pitch. If you're doing what Ronaldo was doing in that year in 2007-8, then you can be as vain as you want in the dressing room. You can say whatever you want because your performances are backing that ego up. But if you're not doing it on the pitch and you're still doing it off the pitch, it must be jarring to be in that sort of dressing room. And that is what Fred is pointing out. There are clearly some players there that he feels need to improve on the pitch if they're to have the sort of confidence and arrogance that they have off the pitch, which they still already do. United can't go forward until everybody's on the same wavelengths. And I keep saying it, but look at Liverpool. Jurgen Klopp has instilled a system there which every single player believes in. They know what they're doing. And obviously, from a coaching perspective, I think tactically he's far better than Solskjaer, so that's never going to happen in terms of the full package. But everybody's bought into Klopp at Liverpool. At Solskjaer, some people have bought into Solskjaer. Some of the players probably consider him not good enough manager to take them forward, and I don't think Solskjaer will be that man to bring all the trophies back, but he's the man to help continue this cultural reboot, which I think is the reason he's not being sacked. And Fred saying these sorts of things here, talking about the vanity in the dressing room, the players not doing enough on the pitch, it's clearly frustrating him enough to the point where he feels comfortable enough to say this in an interview. But all credit, I think, to Fred for saying this. Some might say, oh, look, it's a dressing room leak. It's not a dressing room leak. It's Fred talking face-to-face to a camera. You know who said it. He's just being honest with what he's experiencing every week in training and before the game and after game. This is what Fred can see are the problems at United. Solskjaer can see them too. That's what Solskjaer is working to improve. Players like Fred and McTominay, they're helping to improve that. But it's still a long road. And as Fred says there, until everyone's on the same wavelength, United can't really move forward. But I want to know what your reaction to these comments is. Do you think Fred is right to come out and speak like this in the public, or should this be kept just behind closed doors? Let me know what you think in the comments below. But for me, all credit to Fred for doing this. He didn't do it in a nasty way, didn't do it in a dirty way, but he highlighted the problems that exist. And hopefully it can make a positive difference, because United certainly need that going forward. But I would say well done to Fred for saying these things, because all of us fans have been thinking it for a long, long time. You've just proven it.